Frano again. This is going to be part two of decoding the music industry. So I'm going to begin by talking about what I believe to be something I noticed when listening to music from like the similar month or similar year, maybe the same season, two very popular albums. And I'm not talking about any music, although on many levels, like musicians write about the same things as each other because we connect to this similar clouds of creativity or whatever you want to describe it to be. So, but what I've noticed is that in big record labels, in albums that have mass appeal, normally go out to the masses, get marketed to the masses, and therefore reach the masses. Basically, you get the same kind of words, and it's almost as if you get people like kids in school, and they have a curriculum where thousands of people will write about the same thing, and they can compare. The system can then compare the data, the information, and see who's like the brightest, who's got different outside the box perceptions. Because education also gives the system the opportunity to learn about its inhabitants. But music is like they have like things where there'll be a topic matter. There might be something like, I don't know, something to do with the weather, or like a specific thing though. It goes more specific than like, okay, we want at least a verse or at least a song that has something to do with maybe like, I don't know, a really wet rainy storm, or something more specific like the word monsoon, or the word what's a good, see, I didn't think of a specific example, but basically what happens is you'll find content that appears suddenly, and not just in one song, another song and another song, from the big record labels, because the big record labels are working in a system where they are all part of this pyramid. Basically they're all part of the system, and the creative responsibility of the musician, and even the way the record's going to sound, because there's the creative side, then there's how a record is mixed and mastered, and what kind of glitter and clothing they put on this model of a song actually affects it quite a great deal. And this is something that is obviously done, and the whole process is semi-directed and semi-facilitated by obviously other people, so I find you get content that appears basically across, and this is it's kind of like it's just another way of like emphasizing a message, or but also, okay, I'll move on because I spent a bit too long on that thing. There's kind of music is a self-confession thing on one level, to like someone going into church and confessing their sins and their self and their wrongdoings, or something personal to them. Normally music. So also, if you consider that people are working using their solar energy, they're not selling their soul, but they're using their solar energy under a big record label, and working under their, like, perhaps an agent or a manager that gives them a lot of shows, and they book the times and the shows and the venues. The musician doesn't book these things, generally speaking. So the fact that their path is being laid out in front of them and they have less power. Another way of the record label and giving a message to the system that will last, like a song that will be famous for a long time and put on the record, if you will. It's like when you look at a sports book and you see who won the NFL in 1971, and that's a record, that's on record. Same thing as like a musician on the track, it's on record then. So they want to emphasize back to education, the system wants to know about us. They want to emphasize what they know about us as individuals, and the more powerful or potentially more mass-reaching individuals, like the Beatles, for example. The system wants to say, okay, yeah, they are powerful and influential, and but the system also wants to try and moderate and control where and how how the power can take place, and sometimes the creativity and the actual band, the musicians themselves, take over and overcome what the record company or anything else that's involved with the band could actually ever imagine happening. And so they want the musician to confess that. They know, alright, we've given you this opportunity to make money and blah blah blah, but you've got to admit, and you've got to show, and you've got to realise, as a musician listens back to their songs, especially if they've been a bit manipulated in the studio by a big record label company, they have to then realise, alright, well actually yeah, they're almost being mocked or being played. And like another song is Queens of Stone Age, first it giveth, then it taketh away. It's basically saying this is what this industry does. It gives and it takes, it gives and it takes, and that's what the system effectively does on any high level of monetary giveth. It takes and it gives, and it might not take necessarily the money back. It might give you all the money, but it might take away your free time, or it might take away your ability to like be the guy that wants to meditate. It might take away some of your privacy, being famous, etc., etc. But then eventually you might lose the fame, which is actually, I think it'd be a good thing. If you've been famous and suddenly people don't recognise you anymore, it'd be a good thing, because you could actually, well, be closer to who you were before you became that person, the idolised, falsified statuette of a person. So let's not idolise people too much. I know it's it's nice to have heroes and all that, but everyone goes through ups and downs. They might not be shown to the masses, the kind of journeys and battles and personal growth, because we all have like tests all the time. Like we've all got like a whole mountain to climb. We've got to go around the mountain, up the mountain, through into caves. We need to take rests. We need to watch our footing, watch where we step, watch where we go, make sure we adapt to the weather. You know, this kind of metaphor I'm putting at you here is life, because as I say, we're as a spiritual creative community and music community or anything, you want to create something, you want to like try and describe it how it is, and that's what effectively makes a good album, is the ability to describe all, not just good, not just bad. You have to describe it all, because then it caters for everyone. No matter what stage you're in, a good album can give you a feeling. No matter what stage you're in your life, you can relate to it. Obviously, we already know this, but I'm stating the obvious, but an album like The Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, it caters for the whole spectrum of human emotion, and pretty much the music itself generates feelings and stimulates emotions within us, and connection on pretty much like all the kind of ups and downs and feelings, and it identifies to us, like, even if we haven't felt that way, it shows us like how it can be, how part of the world actually is, how part of the experience can get. If you think about the history of the rock star, it's only like a very new thing, coming from like Elvis in the 50s kind of thing. There weren't really any front men until then, and it developed in the 60s with people like Jim Morrison, frontmen like Jimi Hendrix, and you know how it goes. But the reason why I want to bring attention to this is because you can see how it's forced a lot of musicians to burn bright and burn fast. And back to the whole like idolization thing, when these people are idolized and there's so much energy being thrown at them every night, they're playing a show, and they're playing this like trancey kind of trip. They're in the music. They're in the music. You know, they're in this trip like every day, combined with all the substances, drugs, and things they're experimenting because they want it. They want to. You know, they're going through such this period of creativity, and time begins to become elusive. You can imagine. Not only in the event of playing the music, but in the overall day-to-day kind of travelling shows and all that. Substances often become like a healing part of that. And you've got to know, some people, like musicians, they wouldn't have had, they perhaps would have been in a great state of mind and trinity and physically, mentally and spiritually well when they were making their music, but then going on tour could have actually brought them to a lower state in one or more of these avenues of their lives. So you can see how if say for example the stomach is not good, you have a bad stomach for a long time of eating bad food, and you're on tour and you can't afford good food and you don't have time for that, and you're on fast food all the time because it's fast life, and then you take a drug, you start taking a drug to try and counteract that, and you're trying to get this balance back, but you realise that you're missing out because you don't have the time to reflect, and you don't have, or perhaps you don't use the time that you do have to reflect and continue on the path of trinity and motion and growing. So obviously this affects people. So like Nirvana singer Kurt Cobain, for example, he had a bad stomach, so then he used the drugs, he used heroin to try and heal his stomach and heal his pain, to numb him and help him. Obviously it didn't end up that way, and these people like Jim Morrison from the Doors, who would apparently he went to Amsterdam, and everyone's offering everyone drugs, and they'll offer you this, that, the other, everything. It's kind of like just like the way it is. So he was the guy that didn't say no to any of it. So he didn't have that left side or the right side of the brain, whatever side of the brain is all logic. He didn't have that, oh, we've got to think about next Christmas, or like next year, or like next birthday, or next this, or there was nothing. And there was no like, without that logic, linearity on life, there's no like, how much can I do? There's no limit. He didn't have the limit of like, how much can I do? It was just literally, he said, and I quote, we want the world and we want it now. So it's like this whole revolutionary idea of like ego, though. All that is saying, it's just ego. It's just like, we want the world, we want it. There's no like patience there, because you can tell that's the lifestyle of a rock star, of a rushed person. And it doesn't matter if you're a rock star, like a busy banker, you know, or a busy taxi driver, whatever you are, you're doing this thing and you spend so much time doing it, man. You have to be a freaking rock star to put up with it. You need to really be good at like getting your world and your perception, and you need to really, like, it tests you, you know. It's a big thing. And we all like, especially if you've worked long hours, all credit to you, my gratitude to you people like that are working long crazy hours all the time, or even just working, you know, like 36 hours a week. It's not easy going, and I can see how it could be tough, but excuse me. But you've got to appreciate the a lot of these rock stars, they burn out bright, so don't obviously emulate them too much. But it's a completely different reality. If you imagine like going on, you know, you're doing what you love, you're doing it over and over and over and over and over again, and you've got to like be on the pedestal that these people are waiting for you to show them, because they've heard the record and the record's good. Like, the record's always going to be like as good as you can really make it, if you want to make it like really good record, and then plus you're going to add this like this magic on top of it to make it even better. You're going to use the factor of like digital and analog tools to make it larger than life, to make it like bigger and better than it's ever really going to sound live, unless you're using some really sophisticated technology live as well. You kind of like, you can create something that is falsifying the individual to some extent, which is fine. But then if their life is falsified, then they've got to meet this falsified limit again and again and again, and then they yeah, they lose connection basically. You can see how the chaos element of music actually takes over, and that's why I was saying, like, yes, fair enough. If you're someone that's just out of the limelight and out of fame, do it, because it's all a choice. Especially the way the system works these days, it's like whether you are the guy that like just appears on TV or whatever, or like there's a lot of attention put on you, and like say you're on a reality show or whatever, and there's a lot of like, oh, there's a big story behind this, big deeper meaning and all that, but a lot of it, like, if you're not still like being that person that they want you to be, because they're like painting a big picture, then, you know, if you start saying, no, I'm not going to be that guy because that's not really me, and I'm not going to keep playing this character, you start cutting off the strings, cutting off the string here and there, like eventually you cut them all off, you know what I mean? And then you realise, like, yeah, this isn't it, like, this is what was it. And what you've done effectively by cutting these strings, you've put yourself off the, you're now no longer in the limelight, the next act's coming out, you know what I mean? Curtains have opened, there's another stage over there as well, there's another stage over there. It's like a multi-festival here that you're in, and you're just one act for one time, or you're an actor that regularly comes back, but you're in this omnipresent, surrounded by curtains being opened and closed all over the place if you're in that world. And like, I mean, that's just it. It's just one way of imagining what a performing artist's world is. And if you looked at it, say if you could just see it all at once, you know what I mean? Do you know, another thing I was imagining is like walking down the street, and as you're listening to the radio in your car, imagine like visualizing like a hologram above the car showing like two speakers sitting in a room with microphones. Effectively, it's the radio show being broadcast above them like a hologram. That's effectively what their attention is on, and they might not be imagining the people in the room, because obviously they're driving, they're looking at the road and they're like focusing, but effectively what the attention is going to is this small image of two people speaking. Like if you could just see reality and imagine reality like that, it's kind of it makes life cooler. You could, when you walk past and you hear someone listen to a beat, like hip hop beat in their car, you can imagine a hologram coming out of the car, and like the band playing live or something. You know, like the drummer playing the beat, the bassist playing the bass, you know, the guy playing the synth, and then the rapper at the front of the stage or whatever. You can imagine basically just keep home back in